Okay, welcome. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for coming. Oh, got it. Let's say got it. Today, my name is Paul MacLean, and I'm the director of the Colorado Nutrition Obesity Research Center. And we have gathered here today to talk to you about how the Colorado NORC and the LEAD Center can help you facilitate you in building and developing your research program. So today's program is going to go something like this. As I said, I'm the director of the Colorado NORC, and I'm going to lead out this presentation by talking to you about the Colorado NORC, giving you an overview, and talking to you about how you might leverage the Colorado NORC to facilitate your research. Donna Dabelea, then she is the director of the LEAD Center and professor of epidemiology, the Conrad M. Riley Endowed Professor of Epidemiology. She is going to give an overview of the LEAD Center, and then she'll be followed by Anna Bellatorre, who is a research associate in epidemiology and the assistant director for data operations of the LEAD Center. And she's going to talk to you about some of the resources, the repositories, and the services that are offered by the LEAD Center that may facilitate or help you with your research. So to begin with, the Colorado NORC. This is the Nutrition Obesity Research Center. I run this center with Dan Bessison, and Olivia Schmidt is our program administrator. Carol Hannah is our grants and contracts specialist. We're run out of the Anschutz Health and Wellness Center, which is on the northwest corner of campus. The NORC, the Colorado NORC, is an NIDDK sponsored center grant that brings about $6 million over 5 years to our institution to support research in nutrition and obesity. The mission of the Colorado NORC is to advance the science of nutrition and obesity by facilitating interdisciplinary collaborative translational research and by fostering the development of the next generation of scientists in the Rocky Mountain region. And our theme is the prevention and treatment of obesity and its metabolic complications across the lifespan, with better nutrition, lifestyle modifications, and medical treatments. And because we consider cancer as one of the metabolic complications of obesity, that's why I'm here. We wish to foster more collaboration between the Cancer Center members and the Colorado NORC and the LEAD Center. And that's why you should care. Nutrition and overnutrition affects every tissue and organ in the body. It influences health and disease in a number of different ways, cancer in particular. And because obesity is so common, over 60% of adults and 20% of our kids now are afflicted with overweight or obesity. So this is a big problem, and it can affect a lot of different disease pathologies, including many cancers. And so over the past 30 years, we have used nutrition and obesity as an interdisciplinary hub for translational team science. Our center is one of 11 funded centers across the country. We're positioned well in the Rocky Mountain region to support nutrition and obesity research. And our members are spread across 5 institutions, including our campus, UC Denver, Boulder, CSU, and even the University of Utah. We have some members. Over the past 29 or 30 years, our research membership has grown. We now have 132 regular members. These are faculty level members who have funding in the area of nutrition obesity research. Our faculty, our research base is very healthy because we have a good distribution of faculty members across instructor and all ranks of professorship. 86% of our members are here on this Anschutz Health and Wellness or Anschutz Medical Campus, but they do come from 4 different colleges and over 30 organizational units on campus. We also have affiliate members. These are people who are not necessarily funded in this area, but are interested in nutrition obesity research. These include our trainees, postdocs, graduate students, and faculty scientists who don't necessarily use our cores, but are still engaged with our center in some way, shape, or form. So if you're not a member and you want to be, or you think you should be, I want you to reach out to me and Olivia Schmidt so that we can talk about making you a member, and this will expose you to a lot of different opportunities that might be relevant to you in your research career. As our research base has grown, our funding portfolio has grown over the past 30 years. We are now over, our research base has over $50 million in research funding. And while this center is funded by NIDDK, we actually have a very diverse research portfolio. And I want to point out that NCI funding is one of them. And this is an area where we think we can grow, and it's why I'm here and why I think with the NORC and the LEAD Center, we can actually increase this in our research portfolio. We're very interested in the different disease states that nutrition and overnutrition are related to and affect. But you can also see here the research, the types of funding in our research portfolio. R-level grants, team science awards, VA merits, foundation awards, K-level career development awards, and a lot of small pilot projects that are funded through the institution or through foundations. This is the NORC operating structure. You can see that the NORC research base, we support this research base through a pilot and feasibility program, a NORC enrichment program, and 3 biomedical research cores, all of which I'll talk about in a minute. We have an administrative core, and these are themes that have naturally emerged in our research base over the past 30 years. And so 29% of our researchers study early life influences, 43% report studying women's health, 32% are in the theme of exercise and energy expenditure. Over 50% study metabolic dysfunction and its metabolic complications like cancer and cardiovascular disease. And then 43% are developing interventions for better health. Now, integrated in all of these themes is cancer research. Cancer research is integrated in all 5 of these themes, and so there may be people who are working within these themes that may have overlapping interests with you and with what you are doing in your research program. Our enrichment program is run by Ed Melanson and our program administrator, Olivia Schmidt. We asked our research base what they wanted out of an enrichment program, and they said, don't give us another seminar program. We have too many seminar programs on campus. And so our strategy with our enrichment program has been to take the resources that we have and partner with existing enrichment programs, seminar programs on campus to bring nutrition and obesity content to those programs. And so we partner with nutrition, endocrinology. We've had a lot of partnerships with the Cancer Center and the Diabetes Center, as well as the Lead Center, to support obesity and nutrition content in these existing programs. We sponsor a lot of working groups that may be relevant to the work that you're doing. And we have weekly a newsletter and weekly updates of funding announcements and opportunities for early career investigators that go out. This past summer, we sponsored a cancer metabolism workshop. So we do summer workshops on different topics. In this most recent summer, it was focused on cancer. And we have an awards program. My point here is that we have many partnerships with our enrichment program, including the Cancer Center. So if you have somebody you want to bring on campus that's relevant to nutrition and obesity, come to us. We will get with the Cancer Center and we'll partner to bring it to this seminar program that we're speaking in today. We have a pilot and feasibility program. We give between $120,000 and $160,000 a year out to early career investigators. These are postdocs or junior faculty who have not received their R01. We encourage the use of our research cores in this program. These are $40,000 grants passed out over 2 years. And if you're interested and you think you have relevance to our center and you can bridge the gap between our two centers, watch for the call for applications in March. The deadline will be in May. This pilot and feasibility program is run by Dan Bessison and Kristen Boyle. And we have partnered with the Cancer Center, the Diabetes Center, and either other institutions in our pilot and feasibility program. So look for those partnerships, particularly the specific partnerships with the Cancer Center that might be relevant to what you do. We have 3 biomedical research cores that we have strategically designed to span the translational ladder from basic to preclinical, clinical, and translational research. Our molecular and cellular analytical cores run by Dr. Brian Bergman. He runs a mass spec lab. Corinne Zemsky-Berry is the director of lipidomics. And they not only do lipidomics of a number of lipid species, but they also do stable isotope enrichment studies. Dr. Kartik Shankar is an associate director of this core. He runs a transcriptomic pipeline running RNA-seq in partnership with the Cancer Center's genomics core. Dr. Matt Jackman brings expertise in cellular and mitochondrial respiration. So we have equipment like the Seahorse and the Ouroboros, the Citation 1, that are available for people who are interested in mitochondrial function and cellular respiration. And I'll just say these cores are run with partnerships with the Cancer Center and the Department of Pediatrics. Our energy balance assessment core does both human and animal metabolic phenotyping. In the human or clinical realm, we have equipment and expertise for body composition, measures of energy expenditure. We have a whole room calorimeter, measures of doubly labeled water, which helps with energy expenditure measures in the free living environment. And then measures and assessment of physical activity, physical fitness, and exercise interventions. This is run by Wendy Court. Ed Melanson is an associate director who oversees our whole room calorimeter. Seth Creasy is an assistant director who is heavily involved with the doubly labeled water measurements. And I run the small animal phenotyping core. Pretty much everything we can do in the humans, we can do in animals with body composition, energy expenditure, meal patterning, nutrient trafficking. These services and expertise, all of this is done in partnership with the CCTSI, the Department of Medicine, Department of Pediatrics, and of course, our animal facilities partners. Our last core is the Clinical Intervention and Translational Core. This is run by Dr. Janine Higgins, and the Associate Director here is Vicki Catenacci. This is run out of the Anschutz Health and Wellness Center. These folks help people with clinical translational design, weight management interventions. Janine runs the metabolic kitchen out of the Anschutz Health and Wellness Center that does meal preparations and diet analysis, food intake analysis. They have physical activity interventions and just general clinical research support. And this is done in partnership with the Anschutz Health and Wellness Center and the CCTSI. My point here that I think I hope I hit on several times is that the success of the NORC is based upon its partnerships with other departments and centers on campus. These are critical, and the two that that I've really hoped I've highlighted today are the Cancer Center, because we partner with through enrichment programs, through our pilot programs, and through our research cores. We partner with the Cancer Center to help support and facilitate research on campus. But what you're going to learn more about today is the LEAD Center. This is the Lifecourse Epidemiology of Obesity and Diabetes Center run by Donna Dabelea. This is a new and burgeoning collaboration of the NORC that I'm really excited about, that I hope you'll learn more about today. This is important to us. We've started this collaboration over the past year because the LEAD Center does something that we in the NORC don't do. And so they bring expertise, resources, and tools that can complement our biomedical research cores and bring new things to our research base that are of value to essentially complement and take us to another level. They bring expertise in epidemiology and resources and tools with data and tissue repositories that allow us to ask questions in a translational manner in a way that we haven't been able to do before. So that's what you're going to hear about now. If you have any more questions about the NORC, you want to become a member, or you want to know about our programs or how to use our cores, please go to cunorc.org. Our website has a lot of information there. You can email me or Olivia Schmidt to get more information. And with that, I will turn the time over to Donna, who is going to talk to us about the LEAD Center. Thank you. So I'm going to hit escape. Actually,
you're sharing, so stop sharing or not.
And then you're
Post this.
yeah, and then you're right there.
Yeah, it's
Okay, I'll just turn this off.
okay. Thank you, Paul, and thank you for this wonderful burgeoning collaboration that we're also very excited about. As you heard, you're going to hear more about the LEAD Center, but I wanted to start by asking how many of you have even heard about the LEAD Center? About 20%. You're going to learn more. Okay. So a little intro, and this talk is going to touch on science a little bit about why we even come into existence. As Paul was also presenting earlier, we all know that obesity has been increasing steadily in this country and worldwide. And 20% of youth and even more adults have overweight or obesity, and obesity is occurring at increasingly younger ages. Type 2 diabetes, the most direct consequence of obesity, is increasing in adults, or has been increasing for a long time. And now it has become a pediatric condition. Type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset diabetes. Not only is type 2 diabetes a pediatric condition nowadays, it is increasing among all youth of all racial ethnic groups. And so given that we now have chronic diseases like adult onset type 2 diabetes and others in kids, there's a growing interest in the developmental origins of health and disease, and in a life course approach to chronic diseases. And I'm just going to mention what the life course approach stands to do. It stands to explore how exposures and risk factors occurring during critical sensitive periods of development and across life stages, their accumulation over time, influence the development of disease or health across the entire life course. And this is also something that can be transmitted across generations. So the life course perspective is one dimension of the life course approach. The other dimension of the life course approach, which you see here, is the fact that it goes across what we call multi-level environments. And it focuses not only on metabolism and physiology, that a lot of what you're doing might be focusing on, but also on what happens clinically with families and individuals, what happens at the community level, and what happens at the social or societal or structural level, and how all these levels influence each other in promoting disease or health across the life course and across generations. So that's what we are trying to do, and that's why the LEAD Center was launched in 2015. So it's a relatively young center, although it's about 8 years old today. And we are located since 2022 in the health sciences building, the newest building on campus. You see here one of our, our front room here. We are on the first level of this building, this corner area that you see on the first picture there, with big windows. And we have about 10,000 square feet. So it's an upgrade for us compared to where we were before. Now, as opposed to the NORC center, LEAD is not funded by a center grant. It has been developed by enthusiastic faculty with mostly grant funds. And so everything that we do at this point in time is grant funded, which makes it difficult to go in some directions that Paul described earlier. Our major research themes are to identify risk factors for and consequences of obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, neurocognitive conditions, and cancer across the entire lifespan, with a focus on early life exposures, because that's the developmental origins of health and disease theme. We also seek to describe the burden and progression of diabetes, for example, or other chronic diseases. We need to know how much of a burden this is for our families, for our state, for our country, and worldwide. This is the epi part of what we're doing. We also seek to translate observational findings into clinical trials. So we do translational research and clinical trials into community programs across the entire life course. And a cross-cutting theme is to understand and address disparities in obesity and diabetes and other chronic diseases, especially in underserved groups. We also train students, fellows, junior faculty in life course and chronic disease epidemiology and clinical research and maternal and child health research. We seek to provide research opportunities via collaborations locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. And we also use a team science approach because we have a multidisciplinary group of faculty and research support staff. And what you see here on the top part of the slide is a little bit of our statistics. Since inception, we have seen in person or remotely over 8,500 participants. We wrote grants and got funded and brought to the center and to this campus over 6.1 million direct fund costs in funding and over 26 million since 2015. Funding rate of 27%, which is much better than the NIH payline. And we have a team of about 91 members. Most of them are people who live in the lead center, faculty, research support staff, trainees, fellows, etc. Some are affiliated faculty who submit grants through the lead center. This is how we define our membership base. And not to ignore over 450 publications since inception. Organization, so I'm the director, founding director of the lead center, and Dr. Perng, who is right here with me, with us, is an associate director for research. You later today about how you can access our data and repository. She's the assistant director for the data operations. We have 4 cross-cutting scientific tracks. One is focusing on environmental science, and it's led by Dr. Starling and Moore. Both are epidemiologists. And they conduct studies focusing on the environment and the effects of the environment on biology and disease and health. We have a basic science core in which we collaborate with basic science investigators. It's led by Kristen Boyle, who you saw before, and Kartik Shankar, who is a NORC associate director. And they're designing studies that go into mechanisms responsible for associations that we observe in larger cohorts. We have an omics core led by Dr. Perng, who, as the title says, go into high-dimensional biological data, again, with a quest towards mechanisms responsible for associations. And then the newest core is translation implementation led by Dr. Kroom, in which we want to link into community prevention and intervention applications. We also have some administrative or operational cores, a data operation core and, a data analysis core, which seeks to support investigators with grant writing or planning of grants by supporting the statistical analysis plans and power and sample size calculations. Now, Deb Glick was leading this. We have to recruit another scientist because she is no longer our lead center senior biostatistician. She wants to do additional things with her career. We have a database and biorepository core led by Dr. Bellatorre. You'll hear about that a little later. This is about our data and sample repository, and you're going to hear more about this. And then a research administration core led by Lisa Testaverde. So how are we achieving these goals? Since we are not funded by one center grant, but we have a lot of smaller grants or larger grants, what we've done in our unique niche is access to longitudinal human cohorts that have collected deep phenotype data that are now in the repository that you can all access. And I'm going to describe some of these cohorts because some might be of interest to you. So we have large longitudinal cohorts. You see some names here: Healthy Start, Epoch, and Search. In these cohorts, we nested mechanistic studies using samples collected sometimes during pregnancy, sometimes at birth, sometimes later in life. For example, the Healthy Start baby bump sub-study that has collected mesenchymal stem cells and cord blood and placenta and is doing multiomics and all sorts of mechanistic investigations. With the large longitudinal cohorts, we participate in consortia. So through us, you might have access to these large national or international consortia, such as the ECHO Consortium, Environmental Influences on Child Health Outcomes Consortium, which is amassing data on 50,000 or more children and their moms and their dads in the United States across multiple locations. A PACE Consortium, Pregnancy and Childhood Epigenetic Consortium, and a newer one, Youth Onset Type 2 Diabetes. This is called now Discovery, just funded this year, a consortium of youth at very high risk for type 2 diabetes who don't yet have type 2, but we're going to follow until some of them will develop type 2 diabetes to understand what predicts the development of type 2 diabetes versus what predicts resilience in very high risk youth. Then we also have population-based surveillance studies of pediatric diabetes. I mentioned SEARCH, the newer one is the KAIA. We have clinical trials focusing on obesity and diabetes prevention. You might have heard of the Diabetes Prevention Program and its outcome study. We have a site in Colorado, and I'm part of the executive committee that manages this study right now. We translate efficacious clinical trials into community prevention. An example is Tribal Turning Point, which is a DPP-based intervention refined for American Indian children, which we're deploying in a neighboring tribal nation. Or pregnancy-related clinical trials on intergenerational obesity and diabetes risk. This is another consortium called Enrich, in which we are participating. So with these cohorts and studies, we have also participated or contributed to the training of the next generation of researchers, students, postdocs, junior faculty. This highlights some of success in terms of K99 or R00 funding and other types of funding for our junior colleagues. Okay, I wanted to describe a little bit some of our cohort studies, starting with those that might be of more importance for you. And I'm going to start with the Healthy Start study. This is a pre-birth cohort study of 1,400 mothers and children recruited from the University of Colorado Hospital. And this cohort was followed from the first trimester of pregnancy through delivery and into childhood, and currently is being followed at ages 10 to 15 years. Here, we collected risk factors or exposures on a grand scale on both moms and children. Maternal and early life environment, obesity, weight gain, diet, physical activity, smoking, including cannabis, environmental chemicals, depression, stress, social determinants. So above the skin and below the skin types of exposures. In terms of outcomes, being a cohort study, we were able, although we designed this to focus on obesity, we were able to expand. So offspring growth and obesity and cardiometabolic health, but also childhood behaviors from infant feeding practices, diet and sleep and physical activity throughout childhood, satiety. We added brain development and neurocognitive outcomes. And when I say brain development, I want to say that we have brain MRIs longitudinally collected that have not been analyzed yet. Respiratory and allergic diseases, asthma, lung development, food allergies. There's an interest from an investigator on campus on exploring food allergies in this cohort. Glycemic and insulin resistance trajectories during puberty being another sensitive period that we're very interested in, and got an R01 funded in 2022 to specifically focus on puberty. And then maternal cardiovascular outcomes. So not just following the offspring, but also following the moms in a separate grant. And this study is part of the NIH-funded ECHO consortium that I mentioned earlier with 50,000 or more children across the United States. So investigators working with us will have access to the entire ECHO consortium database and repository. Just to make it a little bit more interesting, I wanted to include some science. What have we learned from the Healthy Start study so far? And these are just some selected highlights. We've learned that maternal obesity and gestational weight gain independently influence infant adiposity measured with the PPOD, with a device that really measures adiposity. So we learned that in our entire cohort, the association, and then explored mechanisms in vitro. Kristen Boyle and her colleagues saw that the relationship between maternal obesity and neonatal adiposity may result from greater lipid accumulation, lower fatty oxidation, and suppress AMP kinase activity. So this is how you can go from observational to mechanisms, and from mechanisms back to larger human clinical research. We've learned that maternal diet and physical activity during pregnancy protect against neonatal adiposity, especially in the third trimester of pregnancy. I think that our basic science colleagues are interested in now pinpointing the mechanisms by which this happens. Neonatal adiposity, a focus for many of our early papers in Healthy Start, predicts childhood obesity. It's a good biomarker of future childhood obesity, and it's a very sensitive marker of intrauterine exposure. So clinical trials focusing on breaking the intergenerational cycle of obesity might focus on adiposity at birth instead of birth weight, which is not such a good marker. We also learned that the relationship between maternal hyperglycemia during pregnancy and offspring glucose insulin homeostasis is not completely mediated by child adiposity. So there might be mechanisms there that we could pinpoint and explore and target by interventions. In terms of our contributions to the larger ECHO consortium, as I said, one of the original 69 cohorts, we consented 900 of our participants to share that data with ECHO. So we live in a period when data sharing is increasingly needed and important, and we want to promote that, and we want to promote that in a way that is respectful, helpful to science, and collaborative. And we're doing that in ECHO. We completed 500 middle childhood visits funded by ECHO. We received supplemental funding for all 5 training opportunities in ECHO and timely COVID research. I want to take a little minute to say something about these training opportunities. So participation in the ECHO consortium comes with the opportunity of submitting each year, in the past 1, currently 2, studies from each participating center, pilot and feasibility study that are proposed by people from the larger research group of our D in question. So anybody who is interested to do something in ECHO can submit a proposal through us. And we were successful in all 5 attempts thus far. In the second cycle of ECHO, which just started this year, we will have 2 such opportunities because we now got 2 grants. We got the follow-up of the existing pediatric cohort, and we also got an award to start a new pregnancy cohort here, which we're hoping to do by collaborating with the Denver Health and our local OBGYN community. So now we can submit 2 such proposals in the next 7 years. 1 is already out. I've sent you the announcement, Paul. A short turnaround time, but it's worth thinking about. The amounts are not trivial. Okay, a different study that I'm going to talk about is called EPOC, Exploring Perinatal Outcomes Among Children. This is a historical perspective cohort that recruited 600 youth whose mothers were exposed and not exposed to maternal diabetes in utero, mostly gestational diabetes. So maternal obesity and gestational diabetes are the exposures of interest here, and the outcomes are offspring adiposity, cardiometabolic markers at 2 follow-ups. We also have MRIs for visceral and subcutaneous fat, bod measurements. We have, this cohort is extremely well phenotyped with genetics, epigenomics, metabolomics, and microbiome. Not that the other one is not. The other one is also genetics, genomics, metabolomics, will have epigenetics as well. And now we're following up this cohort into young adulthood. Dr. Perng has obtained funding from ADA to continue the follow-up into young adulthood. Some key findings, again, just one of the key findings from this cohort, we found that exposure in utero to maternal gestational diabetes influences BMI growth in children. So children exposed to maternal diabetes in utero grow faster throughout childhood, but not in the first 2 years of life. It's really starting after the first 2 years of life, and mostly as these children start puberty, which is why we think puberty and pregnancy, there's a biological interaction going on there in terms of adipogenesis and risk for metabolic disease. We also found that maternal gestational diabetes is associated with higher adiposity and worse cardiovascular and metabolic profiles in offspring, and explored this a little bit mechanistically with metabolomics, that altered phospholipid metabolism might be one of the pathways. We also found that maternal obesity is associated with fatty liver in the offspring, and in another subsequent paper that lower gut microbiome alpha diversity during pregnancy might be one of the mechanistic links here. Another study is Search for Diabetes in Youth. This was another consortium, and it had 2 components. It had a surveillance component, a registry study comprising 5 sites, 5 centers in the United States, state of Colorado, including a partnering tribal nation, Navajo Nation, and other states listed here, in which we identified all youth with diabetes diagnosed during childhood, age less than 19, in a population of about 5 million youth from 2001 till 2020, for 20 years. So this registry conducted surveillance of pediatric diabetes in the United States and provided us with much needed information on burden and risk, incidence, and trends in incidence of pediatric diabetes by type and by race ethnicity in this country. In their wisdom, funders stopped the studies right before COVID. And so we don't have estimates of what happened during the pandemic with pediatric diabetes in this country. The study also had a nested prospective cohort within this population-based registry that we followed. 3,000 youth with type 1 or type 2 diabetes followed for on average 14 years since they were diagnosed, an inception cohort in which we studied a lot of things related to natural evolution of pediatric diabetes, response to treatment, processes of care, development of complications, etc. The study had many ancillary studies that went to many different directions, a focus on type 2 diabetes, a focus on cardiovascular disease, a focus on nutrition, on air pollution, on food security. That one is still funded. And we also had a collaboration with India, which lasted for a couple of years, in which we harmonized their youth onset diabetes registry with Search and compared rates, but also phenotypes of type 1 and type 2 diabetes, processes of care, complications, mortality. Now we're trying to fund some additional follow-ups of the Search cohort. So we've submitted 2 grants this past month, one focused on cardiovascular outcomes and one focused on biomarkers of vascular and non-vascular dementias. This is a map showing the search study sites. And by the way, the Lead Center hosts all the search data and all the samples ever collected by all the search sites in our freezers. And for those of you who are interested in diabetes and its complications, including cancer, this is an opportunity. This slide just shows some key findings from search. On the left, the trends in type 1 diabetes over the last 20 years in the United States, an average increase of 2% per year, with higher rates and higher trends in non-Hispanic white kids, but the highest was in non-Hispanic Black kids, followed by whites and Hispanics. And on the right, trends in type 2 diabetes on an average increase of 5.3% per year, higher than the increase in type 1 diabetes, with the highest rates and highest trends in American Indian and Black children. I mean, it's amazing to think that we have a disease that used to be called adult onset diabetes increasing at this rate in kids. This also shows this burden of complications by diabetes type. The first two columns show the age-adjusted prevalence of diabetes-related complications in youth with type 2 and type 1 diabetes. By now, these are young adults. So for diabetic kidney disease, retinopathy, neuropathy, cardiovascular autonomic neuropathy, arterial stiffness, and hypertension, generally you see much higher prevalence in those with type 2 than those with type 1 diabetes, with absolute differences that are very statistically significant, with the exception of cardiac autonomic neuropathy. And towards the right side of the table, you see that once adjusted for traditional risk factors, hemoglobin A1C, waist height ratio, lipids, etc., the differences in burden of arterial stiffness and hypertension are completely wiped out, completely explained. But the difference in microvascular complications, nephropathy, retinopathy, peripheral neuropathy remain. So that's something we need to explore more. Diabetes prevention program, you might have heard of this, is now a prospective follow-up of a randomized clinical trial of 3,100 overweight adults with prediabetes. They were randomized to receive a lifestyle intervention or metformin in the active versus placebo in the active portion of the trial. And then they were followed over time now for almost 20 some years. Outcomes being initially diabetes in the main trial, and then diabetes complications, but also cardiovascular disease, cancer, mortality, multimorbidity, quality of life. This cohort just received a U19 funding this year to continue with National Institute of Aging and focus on Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. So now we're gearing towards that complication of diabetes. Because by the way, if you didn't know, everything is a complication of diabetes. This just shows the effect of the original interventions in DPP on reducing the progression from prediabetes to diabetes. And even after 18 years in this study, both metformin and intensive lifestyle reduced the development of diabetes by substantial and significant figures. Now, I want to say that neither intervention had significant effects on diabetes complications, nephropathy, retinopathy, cardiovascular disease, cancer. We're about to publish our paper on cancer, in which we're showing that these interventions that prevented diabetes do not result in preventing cancer development. There's much more to do and more granularity to be explored here in relationship to cancer, as well as with all of these outcomes. And with continuing follow-up of the cohort, we might see different things. Tribal Turning Point is a randomized trial that we're conducting in American Indian youth in Navajo. It has a 3-component culturally sensitive behavioral intervention inspired by DPP And the outcome is pediatric obesity and metabolic markers. And we're just in the analysis stage of this trial. And then the new trial that I mentioned, Enrich, this is a consortium in which we participate alongside with other 6 sites. This is a consortium to promote maternal and infant cardiovascular health. And the centers were asked to partner with federally approved home visiting programs to support 4,200 pregnant women. And our site is working with the Nurse Family Partnership. The original studies conducted by Dr. Olds on this campus, and we will include 600 women from Denver Health in this trial. It will focus on cardiovascular health, Life's Essential 8, if you're familiar with the metric. And then discovery, I mentioned this was just funded this year, another consortium to predict and prevent youth onset type 2 diabetes in very high risk. It will recruit 3,600 pre-pubertal youth at risk for type 2 diabetes, overweight or obese, and with pre-diabetes to understand the pathophysiology of youth onset diabetes and develop prediction models. And we participate with 240 indigenous youth from Navajo Nation to understand aspects specific to this population as part of this consortium. LEAD collaborates with, as I mentioned, the ECHO consortium, and there are opportunities for pilot grants. We collaborate with another consortium called PACE, Pregnancy and Child Epigenetics. We just announced a collaboration with the Cancer Center, 2 pilot grants supported locally, an RFA that went out this fall, and I think it's still open for submissions. And we're just starting the collaboration with LEAD. I'm gonna move on to let Anna tell you how to ask for our data and repositories. So thank you very much. Please feel free to contact me or Anna or Lisa if you're interested.
Thank you, Donna. So after hearing about all of the wonderful data and studies and collaborations that are going on at LEAD, I'm hoping many of you are now thinking, how do I partner with LEAD? What do I need to do? And also to kind of see what exactly it is that we have. So our data and biospecimen repositories include all data and samples from all waves of LEAD Center initiated studies. So this includes all data and samples from Healthy Start, Epoch, Tribal Turning Point. And as Donna mentioned, we have all data and samples from all sites across the country for the Search for Diabetes in Youth study. In addition to this, we also have consortium data that is sent externally, but we do have local data for our partnerships with these different consortia. In addition to the actual data and samples that we have, we also provide a variety of data services and biospecimen services. So one of the things that we do is that whenever anyone wants to partner with us, we do individual personalized consultations to go over your individual study and your needs. We try and partner with what kinds of data do we have? How does it fit your particular research question? What samples or biospecimens might we be able to provide you? But also, do you have data or samples you would like us to manage? Are there things that we can partner with you to bring into LEAD as opposed to sending things only outside of LEAD? For our custom data sets that we make for the data that we house in our biorepositories, in many cases, we have multi-generational data that includes both maternal and child, clinical, anthropometric, biomarker, genetic, EWAS, GWAS, DNA methylation, microbiome, metabolomics, a variety of diet data, imaging data, medical record abstracted data. We also have mortality data in some of our studies as well, as in addition to geocoded and environmental data that may be of particular interest for those doing cancer research and other types of research. We also do consultation on database management and provide assistance with REDCap databases and a variety of other kinds of sets like that. In addition to this, we also provide a higher tier of data management and sharing assistance where we've partnered very closely with COMERB and regulatory compliance and OIT to provide both data security options, data analysis options, and just a wider tier of service. One of the things that we do that not many other groups on site, on the campus do, is we utilize these high computing servers called slice servers, or secure local computing environment servers, where you can access and analyze highly sensitive data with a high level of cores. If you need a high level of RAM, we have some servers that have up to 25 terabytes of data and 1.5 terabytes of RAM to provide really strong computing power, cloud computing, and things of that nature in a secure environment that's both HIPAA and NIST compliant. We also, ever since the NIH started the requirement that everyone needs to submit a data management and sharing plan in January of this year, we've also provided consultations on writing those data management and sharing plans to help people make sure that they're providing the information that they need for the NIH, and also to ensure that if they are partnering with LEAD, that we will show them how we can make their data compliant, accessible, findable, et cetera. And we also provide data management and data security for funded projects. So if, again, you maybe don't have the infrastructure in your own center or department and you would like help with that, that is something that we can offer you, and we can show you a variety of options that fit your needs. In addition to this, we also have our biospecimen services. And so the LEAD Center has 13 freezers in our overall biorepository that have a capacity for over 500,000 biospecimens, including 12 -80 freezers and 1 -20 freezer. We have the ability to store and monitor samples for other studies and investigators, including 24-hour-a-day remote management of the freezers and monitoring of the actual temperature of each freezer as well. And so our current storage in our biorepository include DNA, RNA, both extracted and unextracted, urine, feces, cord, and placental tissue. We have mesenchymal stem cells, serum, plasma, and a variety of other blood products, but we're also capable of storing breast milk, saliva, hair, teeth, toenail, Whatman blood spot cards, biopsied tissues, or other tissues that may be of interest to you. And we definitely have room if you're looking for these kinds of services and want perhaps a more secure environment with this backup of the monitoring that we do. We also fulfill custom data or sample requests. And so we've done both domestic and international shipping, including the regulatory compliance associated with that. We facilitate working with IRB and regulatory compliance whenever necessary. And we can do specialized processing and aliquoting at your request. So now the next part, how do you actually partner with LEAD? The first step is you can reach our website. And so Donna has here our LEAD website. You can reach out to our wonderful director, Donna Dabelea, our associate director, Dr. Pern, to discuss submitting a proposal if you want to collaborate with LEAD and work with some of our data. If you reach out to me, I'm happy to talk with you about your individual projects and your data or sample needs, and how the data and samples we have may be able to help facilitate the building of an analysis proposal, potentially giving you sample size estimates if you're doing grant writing, things of that nature. And I can provide a custom quote for either services, or if you need grant support or just want overall support for a grant submission. You can also reach out to Lisa Testaverde to discuss grant or administration support, which is also something that we're capable of providing. So I'm hoping that after hearing about all of this, you're all very excited and interested to partner with us. I brought several flyers and my business cards for anyone who's interested in taking that home, and we're all here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for your time.
So we're close to the end of the hour, so if you need to leave, that's fine, but we'll be here, or if there's any questions that anyone has, we're happy to answer them. Yeah. Exclusion and inclusion criteria for a lot of cohorts.
We run individual inclusion exclusion criteria for your samples. So we can tell you a variety of information about the samples we've collected. And so say, for example, you want only people above or below a certain age, exposed or unexposed samples. It's not uncommon when we have sample requests for the Search for Diabetes and Youth study that people will want only type 1 etiologic type diagnosed at a specific time point. We can get those kinds of specifications for you.
So we can customize according to.
But in general, those cohorts will have, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
They usually have very broad inclusion criteria. And how they can be modified is through data and your specific research question. You can exclude and focus in on your question.
This is the beauty of population-based cohorts, that they are not characterized just by one thing. They're, all comers.
Other questions? I didn't hear that.
Some,
Cohorts, do they have, like genomic data?
Well, not everything that we do has genomic data, but the bigger ones, Healthy Start, Epoch, Search, DPP, they all do. GWAS. And not just GWAS, beyond.
Questions? Well, thank you for coming.
Thank
We're
you.
down here if you want to talk to us directly.